1, 2, 3. Ah, 1, 2, 3.
I mean, these chairs is not to view it as a backrest. It's really a butt rest. So like,
nobody ever eats turkey outside of Thanksgiving.
You can't keep your mouth shut.
Pecan. Yeah, I'm arguing against this right now.
We're talking green poo all the way up the back towards the neck.
Oh, yikes.
You're not like a brontosaurus or something.
Like you eat like a herbivore. So, I thought you were pretty awkward.
I'm having fun, but to be honest, I'm getting kind of hungry.
Well, now I am all fired up. Let's go. All right, what's up, guys? We are back once again for another video for either our high school house groups, middle schoolers catching up, anybody that's checking us on digital, parents, whatever. My name is Clay Finklea, and this is...
Casey.
Bro, I think all of us in some form want influence, and this series is going to be really about how we can actually go and do and make influence happen in our lives. So I'm very excited about it. Casey, are you excited about it?
I'm pretty pumped about it because I personally love social media.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of following all these like influencers. I do have my select few,
The select few.
My select few. But I love social media. I love the good that it can bring.
Yeah.
So.
There's a lot of stuff. And we're going to be planning off that a ton with this idea of social media influence. Because that's a job now, apparently.
Yeah. People get paid for that?
It seems like an incredible job. And I got to ask you, Casey.
Okay.
If you could be a social media influencer in some area, what would you choose it to be?
Clothing. I want people to send me clothes so I can try them on, and whatever I want to keep, I just keep. I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
Yeah.
And then I just send back what I don't want, and they send it to me again.
It's an amazing job.
So I just try it on in front of the mirror. Look at this super cute shirt, these super cute jeans, and I get paid for it, and I can keep it.
Use my discount code Squires.
Use my discount code Squires10 for 10% off.
Hey, it's a hustle though. I respect it a lot.
Yeah, seriously. I use those codes a lot. I'm just saying.
I have no clue how people actually pulled it off where they can do that.
I don't know.
But well done. I think for me, I would like to be a taco social media influencer where people just send me their tacos, whether that's carnitas, steak, chicken, bean. I don't care.
Bean.
Not vegetarian. So call me the taco influencer, call her the clothing influencer. And that's our idea, where we want to have influence in this world. We want to have people follow us. We want to make these different things happen. But what we don't know how to do a lot is actually how to do that. And there's a lot of times where we see our path to do that, but we don't feel like we're good enough to do that either. So there's this really weird aspect where there's something born in all of us where we want to be influencers, but at the same time, we either feel like we can't, whether because that's our situation or our skill set. So.
Yeah, I feel like on that side, like there's always that, I want to do this, but I don't think I'm good enough to do this, or I don't think I can do this. It seems too far off. So, Clay, since we're talking about this new series, can you give us a lead-in on what our story is about this week?
Yeah, so rather than reading this big section of scripture, I'm just going to tell it real quick. And this whole series is really going to be about Moses. And one of the coolest parts about Moses is he was a man who shouldn't have been an influencer, but turned into one of the greatest influencers of all time using what God has given him. And I think it all starts with his original story, like at the very beginning of his life, where he was born. He was born into the Israelite nation, and the Egyptians at the time owned the Israelites. The Israelites were slaves to the Egyptians, and the Israelites were just growing too much. And then all of a sudden the Pharaoh looked at the Israelites and said, hey, we're going to kill every firstborn male, or every male that you are born with. And obviously that's very bad. So turning into this terrible thing, and this Israelite woman ends up having this baby, ends up having Moses. And obviously as a mother, she doesn't want to have her child die, so what she does is she puts him in this basket and sends him down this river, hoping that the Israelite or the Egyptian princess would pick him up and take him in. And thankfully, in the story, throughout the impossible situation that they were in, and then putting him in the basket, and then the Egyptian princess actually picked him up and then brought him into the household.
Story.
It's crazy.
Such a cool story.
And I think that's the biggest part. Like, the beginning of this story is that, like, there was just this moment where it seemed impossible, but God was still at work.
Yeah. I feel like we forget that he's always, even like in our toughest situations, no matter like what's going on or what's happening in our lives, we're like, crap, I'm in this alone. It's too impossible. It's too much for me to do. But like, I think we forget that Jesus is there, that we forget that he's someone that we can talk to or someone that we can hang out with and just be like, hey, this is hard. How can you feel like you are good enough to have influence on others around you when you yourself just feel like you're not worth it or you're not good enough.
I think about Moses' story, and think about how Moses, if he was when he was a little bit older, how easily it could have been for him to think, man, I was casted out and I was in this bad spot, and I know I got picked up and all this stuff, and like that's good, but there's probably something still inside of his brain where like I should be dead right now. And how hard that would be to deal with. And I think rather than looking at it like, man, what am I even doing here? I think the way to look at it is, man, look what God did to bring me here.
Yeah.
The fact that Moses was put in this basket and picked up, that's a miracle. And that showed me when I was reading this, like, man, God had a plan for Moses to be an influencer from the very beginning of his life. Like, it would have been so easy for Moses to give up on that, for Moses to say, you know what, I'm not interested in that. It's so easy for him to go, you know what, I'm unwanted. Even if that's not true, it'd been easy for him to think about that. And instead realizing, like, we have to realize that he has a plan for us from the beginning of our life. And I don't know what situation you're in, but God has a plan for you. And I think that's the biggest thing to remember in those situations when you don't feel like you're good enough, when you don't feel like you have enough skills, where you don't feel like you have the opportunity.
You have to remember.
God is still there for you because he has a plan for you.
I think it's so important to do that also in little things and big things. But have you ever had a situation in your personal life where you've had to feel like, okay, like I know his plan is good for me. I know what he has for me is going to be the best.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Every day of my life. Here's a little low-key thing, and I'll be straight and honest with you guys. I am a terribly unconfident human, which is weird because you look at me and you see this outgoing, bubbly stage personality that's yelling and screaming and climbing on top of things. But in reality, I'm always second-guessing myself. And I know that I'm called to something more. I know I'm called to be something more. I'm called to lead. But at the same time, there's this voice I always have in the back of my head that's like, Clay, you can't do it. Clay, you're not good enough. Clay, you don't have it. Clay, those skills, nope. Clay, I know God's given you this, but you can't pull it off. Like, and there's just time after time and time I have to deal with that. Like, that is something that I deal with every single day, and I have to shut down that voice that's constantly going in the back of my head.
I feel like, especially in the season that our students are in right now, high school's hard.
Yeah.
Like, high school is so hard. And I feel like they constantly have that inside of them coming from all aspects of life, because high school is a hard place to feel like you have influence for Jesus in. Like, it's hard to feel like you can just go talk to people about Jesus or be yourself around everyone. Just like, hey, be strong in your faith. Hey, know like who you are in him. I think that's really hard in high school because you are trying to fit in. You are trying to be the cool kid. You are trying to be what everyone else wants you to be. But I think that it's hard to fight those voices.
Absolutely. It's not an easy thing. And I think that's where you have to – it's like what we talked about last week. You have to reflect on what God has done. If you don't reflect on what God has done, you'll never be able to do what he's called you to do in the future, like ever, because you'll just run out of steam. You'll run out of confidence. You'll be beaten down by whatever situation you are in currently. Yeah,
and then last week we talked about that also. I've been having to constantly remind myself. It's been this week mainly like, okay, Kacie, why? This is why you're doing this. Like, I would feel I was getting beat up this week just from left and right, school and just life. And I was like, okay, like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? Why did he call me to do this? Like, you got a plan, Kacie. You just have to see it.
That's right.
It's tough, but you can definitely get through it, especially when you realize who you've got on your team.
Yeah, and I think about like our students and what you guys are going through, whether you're middle school, high school, wherever you may be at. I know you guys got stuff going on in your life, whether that's family stuff, friend stuff, school stuff, work stuff, life stuff, whatever it may be. Like, I know there's hardships going on. And I have to remember, too, there's another side of the Moses story, and it's his mother, that she had enough faith in God's plan for Moses that she would send him down the river. I think that's something that we really would struggle, like that we really struggle with all the time, where we go, okay, God, like, I'm trusting you in this situation. Here you go.
Trust is hard.
It's hard.
It's hard.
But I think if we really want to have our influence at the highest level, we got to be like his mother and send down the river.
You got to have the trust.
Yeah, you got to whatever your influence area is, you have to be willing to send it down the river.
Yeah. Just realize that he knows what's good and he knows what's best for you. You just have to trust him to do it, and he'll work it for your good.
Right. Absolutely.
So, you guys, we're going to wrap it up here in a few minutes, but I want to leave you with one more question.
Yep.
So, Clay, how can the students just have influence this week in their schools, in their lives, in their friends' lives? How can they use their influence for Jesus this week?
I think it's realizing that you can have influence in the impossible. Whatever your situation is, whether it's a family situation, life situation, anything I mentioned earlier, or it's a situation where you don't have the confidence to pull through in that situation, realize that you can have influence in the impossible. And what I mean by that is no matter how tough your situation is or how little confidence you have, God has had a plan for you since day one. God had a plan for Moses from the day he was born to lead the nation of Israel out of Egypt. And you would never think that from his beginning story. But that plan was in place. Yeah. And I want you to know the plan is in place for you.
Yeah.
You have gifts, you have abilities, you have talents, you have opportunities to make a huge impact in this world. Yeah. I know you have the ability to influence people right now. We don't believe that you guys are next. We believe you're right now.
Yeah.
And that influence can happen today. So remember that influence that you are seeking can be found in God and his plan.
And it can be found now. So we hope you guys have an awesome week this week. You're about to get started in your small groups, and we'll see you next week.
See you guys.